than that to keep you down. Welcome back, Commander.
One mission in XCOM 2 has more emotion packed into it than most games manage in their entirety. Expect to feel elation, frustration, anxiety, and overwhelming pride when your troops make it through alive, even if they're only barely clinging to life. Every minute decision carries tremendous weight, such as which missions you undertake, what you choose to research, and how your base expands. It's very easy to deeply regret a choice made hours ago, reinforcing the importance of giving every option thorough consideration. While many of the game's best qualities are found in its predecessor, XCOM Enemy Unknown, XCOM 2 is substantially refined to the point where it's hard to imagine where Firaxis could go from here.
Enemies down!
The general flow will be familiar to those who played Enemy Unknown. Between combat missions, players look for ways to shut down the Avatar Project, a mysterious alien initiative that will wipe out humanity upon its completion. At the same time, it's imperative to bolster troops, build new facilities, and expand the global reach of the Resistance. Yet unlike Enemy Unknown, there's more freedom with how you progress. The whole process is easier to comprehend, but it immediately feels as though there's a lot at stake because of additions like dark events, random modifiers that can ruin your day and only be countered by completing specific guerrilla ops missions. Examples of dark events include giving enemies thicker armor, having a massive UFO chase your base around the map, and decreasing the amount of supplies available. A particularly nasty dark event hides faceless aliens within every single map. These aliens look like the many other civilians you encounter until they shapeshift and kill one of your units with a single swipe.
I am at a loss for words to describe the difficulties we have had in attempting to handle this creature, affectionately known as the Faceless.
Making things even more complicated are the rewards offered by guerrilla missions, such as scientists, engineers, supplies, and intel, all of which you desperately need to succeed. Sometimes it's better to choose a guerrilla mission based on the reward offered rather than the dark event countered, and sometimes the inverse is true.
We can conduct guerrilla operations to disrupt one of these efforts, but we'll have to choose carefully. We don't have the resources to intercede everywhere.
With so much to consider, you'd think XCOM 2 would be overwhelming or infuriatingly unclear. Amazingly, despite all of the information thrown at you, it's easy to digest. One of the most important things is making contact with other regions so you can respond to situations and deal with threats within those regions. To do this, you need to build communication relays, which require the appropriate amount of power and engineers. If you don't have these things, a game lets you know exactly how to acquire them and where they can be put to use. Because a lot of the information is presented so well, there's no need for constant, overly elaborate tutorials. As a new player, you'll still likely misinterpret things or make significant errors, but that's due to process of learning rather than the game hiding or convoluting information. You're given everything you need to grow as a player, and even if that growth is occasionally painful, it's ultimately rewarding.
The outcome of this research can only further our advances, Commander.
The missions themselves are more elaborate than before. One of the biggest criticisms of Enemy Unknown is that many maps feel similar to one another. In XCOM 2, the words procedurally generated are taken to heart, with locations that are both random and coherent. Varied objectives keep things interesting, and you rarely do the same thing twice. Expect to rescue civilians, recover intelligence, and destroy alien facilities. All the objectives require a different approach, especially if they have to be completed within a certain number of turns. So much changes during each playthrough that XCOM 2 feels remarkably replayable.
Status confirmed. Mission accomplished.
Once in a great while, the randomness does turn sour. In one mission, the game placed one of the most difficult enemies right next to a vital piece of machinery our squad had to protect. There didn't seem to be any way to reach the machine before it got destroyed, especially since a small horde of aliens blocked the path forward. Failing the mission wasn't entirely ruinous, but it certainly felt like a waste of time. In a game that's almost always fair, such instances stick out more than usual. Soldier classes are more flexible than those in Enemy Unknown. The Ranger, for instance, can be a powerful melee warrior or a silent assassin. Specialists can focus on healing or doing guaranteed damage to targets with airborne drones. In Enemy Unknown, it felt like classes did the same things in different ways, but here, the paths are more distinct, to the point where we wanted multiple units of the same class with completely different skill sets. The story of XCOM 2 is expectedly straightforward: liberate humanity from occupying aliens. Even though it's clear the game wants to put the focus on strategy, it finds clever ways to implement context in short bits of narrative. A lot of this comes from comments made by your chief scientist and engineer. They'll fill you in on what's been happening in the world, as well as offer insightful tidbits about their personal lives. It gives you just enough to get invested without being distracting.
We can't establish any new contacts until we upgrade our systems.
Of all the new additions in XCOM 2, the concealment mechanic shines the brightest. At the start of most missions, units are hidden and won't be seen unless they enter a clearly labeled area of vision, or do something loud like crash through a window. In Enemy Unknown, enemies would get the jump on you, making it easy to get caught in an awkward position. Now it's possible to set up ambushes that quickly wipe out an entire alien squad. Since so many missions are on a timer, it's impossible to take a completely passive approach. Balancing the desire to precisely place units and quickly accomplish the objective can be excruciating, especially when there's loot on the ground. But it's exactly this kind of stress that makes XCOM 2 so wonderful. There are times when you just can't do something perfectly, where you have to swallow a death or injury and move on. Countless games pat you on the back for every little victory, but there are times in XCOM 2 where the words "mission complete" make us feel awful because of what it costs to get there. Yet making the best out of a bad situation is exactly what has us playing for 8 to 12 hours at a time. Since there are so many ways in which things can go wrong, you never know what to expect. As soon as you accept that it's okay and even expect it for horrible things to happen, the game will consume you. At a glance, XCOM 2 may just seem like more XCOM, but after digging in, it's hard to be so dismissive. The missions, characters, mechanics, and flow have all been dramatically improved. There's also just a tremendous amount of stuff to see, even if you don't include the online multiplayer or how readily it supports mods. It's one of those rare games that's so gripping you want everyone to play it, not just those who are already fond of the genre.
We're tracking the aliens' progress on this Avatar project here. If they finish what they've started, it sounds like it'll be the end for all of us.